going to close our show with Dr. David Hilmers. He has an incredible resume, and the reason we've asked him to end our show is his story is possibly one of the most philosophical ones we've had on the program since I founded it in 2011. So I am thrilled to close our show with you, David. Thanks for being here.
Well, thank you and good evening. My name is David Hilmers, as Megan mentioned, and I feel a little bit after, like the batting last after all these incredible speakers that we've had tonight, and I've just been awed by their own stories. And I think as astronauts, we don't get to hear each other's stories very often, so it's been a real treat for me. But like most of you who are tuning in tonight, I'm experiencing the same isolation and loneliness that's part of these pandemic days that we have. I'm speaking to you tonight from Houston, where for the past 7 months now, I guess, I've been a frontline physician doing my best to treat those who suffer from COVID-19. Over the past years, I've been privileged to fly jets with the Marines, to serve as an astronaut on 4 space missions, to start medical school at the ripe old age of 42, and become deeply involved in global health as a physician. Now, I'm no different from any of you listening tonight who over the course of their lifetimes, particularly now, have experienced periods of feeling disconnected, isolated. So I want to pose a question to you. Where is it that we can turn when we get these feelings that seem to overwhelm us and just take over our existence? Well, the year was 1985, and it was after bedtime on my first day in space. Earlier that day, my crew had launched on the Space Shuttle Atlantis on its maiden voyage. I was strapped in my sleeping bag on the lower deck, but despite how tired I was, there's no way I was going to get to sleep that night. While my crew members slept, I floated out of my bag to the upper deck where I could look outside through the windows. It was that half of our 90-minute orbit around the Earth when we were in darkness. During the previous 24 hours, we'd been so busy with the mission details that we didn't have much time to look outside. So I turned down the cabin lights. As I did, the most magnificent sight I had ever beheld appeared through the windows. Without the interference of clouds, the lights of civilization, and the atmosphere, the stars appeared with a brilliance and clarity that I'd never witnessed before. A great canopy of stars overhead and the winding trail of the Milky Way lay out before me, and it stretched to the horizons. In the distance, the lights from Earth seemed to reach out and touch the stars. It was almost as if heaven and earth were embracing. Each bedtime on that flight and on every one of my subsequent 3 space missions, sometime during the mission, I would go up to the dim cabin and spend time contemplating the stars. Although the lights on the Earth would change with man's daily activities, the stars never did. Even when I felt isolated from humanity, floating hundreds of miles above the Earth, the stars brought a constancy that gave me comfort. I could look at the stars on the horizon as if they were reaching down to console us here on Earth. I realized that this constancy, this faith in something that is never changing and will always be there for us, is something for which we all yearn. For some of us, it might be found in spirituality, for others in a loved one, or loved ones, for others in some ideal. For me, this image of the unchanging firmament has touched my spirit on countless occasions. I know that no matter what comes to pass, a glimpse of the heavens at night brings great comfort with hope for a better tomorrow and the knowledge of the ever faithful love of family, friends, and for me, from God. This image of the stars that I saw from space gave meaning to me at many, many other times in my life, both before and after my shuttle flights. Times when I felt disconnected, alone, so I would look to the heavens for peace. I remember as a young Marine lieutenant, far at sea, going to the flight deck on board ship on cold, moonless nights to gaze into the stars for solace from the loneliness. On other military deployments far from home during those years, a profound peace came from contemplating the sheer vastness and constancy of the heavens. Just as the stars represent the assurance that I can have in my life, they also motivated me to try to become maybe a source of a little hope and a little comfort for others. That desire led me to apply for medical school in 1991 as a Marine colonel, now in his 40s. It kept me going through 8 tough, long years of training in medicine and motivated me to devote much of my time these days and much of my energy to serving those in need around the world. I found that it's often through serving others and filling their needs that we can find comfort and fulfillment in our own lives. In the years to come, I would look time and again to the heavens to search for hope and mercy for those suffering around me, as well as for comfort for myself in distant lands. My first job after finishing residency and as an academic physician, I worked in sub-Saharan Africa treating AIDS patients. I shared their anguish when I had to tell them that the life-saving medications available in the West were unavailable and too costly for them, and even harder for their children. On medical missions, I looked above to the heavens amidst the fighting and violence in Iraq in 2003. I could see the need for hope looking into the eyes of the terrified victims of the devastating earthquake in Haiti in 2010. On dark nights on call in an Ebola treatment facility in Liberia, I looked to the stars for relief from the distress I felt for not being able to do more for the victims of Ebola. In sprawling refugee camps in East Africa and in Bangladesh, I marveled at the resiliency of these people who had lost everything and were now strangers in a foreign land. How could they cope? I wondered how they too had found hope for tomorrow amidst their suffering. Now, over the past several years, I've been part of a group providing medical care to patients in North Korea. At night in the countrysides, the lights go out and the stars are brighter than nearly anywhere on Earth that I've been. Communication with the outside world in that land was sporadic, and at times the feeling of isolation was greater than I have ever felt in my life. But despite the differences between cultures and ideologies, the same stars shine for the North Korean people as they do for us. Amidst the isolation, the heavens reach down to touch both them and me. Well, today a new crisis has befallen us. In March, I returned to the US from my international travels to provide medical care in a local Houston hospital as the pandemic unfolded here. COVID-19 has separated me from my family and dear friends for 7 months now. I've witnessed the suffering and unfortunate deaths of many from this scourge. I, like many of you, have felt the sorrow and sheer helplessness and isolation that have resulted. Those stars, however, haven't changed since I viewed them from space, and I still look to them for hope. For me, they represent the faithfulness of God, the love of family and close friends, and the promise for a better tomorrow. I see these as permanent qualities that will never change. I can tell my loved ones to look above, and they know that I am looking at the very same stars as they are. It becomes a bond that ties us together no matter what might befall us. So perhaps you can find your own unshakable rock, your own stars, whatever they may be. You don't need to go to space to find that. You should hold those things close and never let them go. And being a rock for others may allow you to find strength through your service to them. With a solid foundation like this, each of us can have the hope and assurance that helps us carry on, and we can surely endure the isolation and sadness that come with the conflicts, disasters, and yes, pandemics that will certainly appear again. For all of you, please stay safe and healthy, and thanks for letting me share this part of my life with you.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you like this video, check out these other videos from USA Today to stay up to date with all the latest news.